it's often more expensive than buying new, especially if the other option is fast fashion. And that just means that people who can't afford to shop at thrift stores or secondhand options, if they need something, they have no other option that is sustainable. And simultaneously, I'm learning about all the downstream impacts of the fashion industry. It is responsible for about 10% of our global carbon emissions. That's like 3 times more than aviation and the shipping industry combined. And it's at every level of fashion. It's from production to creation to shipping somewhere else. And then most of these clothes end up in a landfill after being worn only a handful of times. And we're at a point where we are spending more money and we're at a point where we are wearing more clothes than ever before, but for a less amount of time. And all of this is just making me very upset. And
Which is true.
yes. So all this is happening, and it occurred to me that we don't really need to have this middle ground of space where people are donating clothes for free out of the goodness of their own heart, often thinking that they are going to get these clothes to someone in need.
Right.
And the reality is that people who really need secondhand clothing, it is not accessible. For example, I have been poor, very poor for the majority of my life. It's not until maybe the last few years that I have been able to really buy whatever secondhand fashion I want. And I only had new to me clothes whenever they were given to me by friends, by family members, and that's kind of it.
Okay.
And these clothes are being donated, and then we pay money again to go to the same thrift store and buy clothes again. And most of the things that we bring there end up in a landfill anyway. So I started to develop Communitique so that people could add friends, meet friends, post clothes that they're going to donate. People who really want them can request them. And then you can chat together, meet up in your city. And actually, number one, for the people giving clothes, you know who it's going to. You know for sure it's going to someone who really wants to wear it. You know it's not going into the trash. And if you're receiving it, you do not have to spend money on clothes that someone was otherwise going to give away for free anyway. And on top of that, I also really wanted to have this be fun and dignified and not a hey, poor people, here's clothes, sad kind of a way. I think that this is a really fun alternative, and there's a better way to do things that actually treats fashion as community care rather than as this othering force in our world.
Thank you so much, Heather. That's kind of an intro I was expecting when I asked you to introduce yourself. And I didn't want to cut you off because you would just keep going and you start from the starting and end what you're doing right now in the present. And that was amazing. I mean, whatever you're doing with Community is
Yes.
absolutely amazing. I mean, it's such a unique idea and it's just awesome. We definitely gonna talk about that more. I have so many questions and whatever the things we have already discussed, we're gonna be going more in depth, and so people get to know what amazing thing you're doing, and how it's actually making a positive impact on the planet and people lives, because both of them are getting safe. People can save their money, and of course the planet is not being getting more waste because we are repurposing, float swapping, and donating the right way that as it should be. So thank you for that, but I'm going to start from the very first thing that you started with, by the viruses. So I'm curious to know, I was about to ask when we had an intro call, but I said let me save it for the podcast. How do you do research on viruses and find out what it is about, where it comes from, how it's going to impact our people's lives, or how bad it is, or there are good viruses too? What is that about?
Sure.
Hmm.
So that depends on the level at which you are studying the virus.
Okay.
So for me, I was studying them at the protein level. And For those who haven't been in a biology class in a long time, proteins are the final stage of what is built off of the DNA or the RNA genome of an organism. So
Thank you for
you have
telling me
your
that too. I didn't know about
yeah. So
that.
you have like we all have all of our DNA,
Okay.
for example,
Hmm.
and viruses also they have their own DNA,
Okay.
and or actually they have well, okay, some of them have DNA, others have RNA. They have their genome.
Okay.
And but all of this is not used all of the time. For example, your skin cells have the same genetic code as your heart cells, but obviously they are not built the same and they're not doing the same things. And that is because your body is only expressing parts of the genome that it needs to make proteins, which I think of as like the toolkits, the builders, and the things that are actually doing the stuff. And so these are what are typically targeted in developing a drug, for example. So you would have a drug that would stick to a particular part of a protein maybe, and we have to really understand what that protein looks like and what its chemical structure is to be able to do that and to be able to stop it doing its normal function.
Mm.
So if it's a like the most common example is like a lock and key. So if a protein is a key and another protein is a lock, you could make a drug that blocks the entry of the lock so that the other one could not go into that crevice.
I see. So you use their own opposite thing to stop the virus.
Yeah, you
That's how.
can.
So are the viruses are everywhere that we're living at, and if so, why we're not so get it infected? On the daily basis, or our human body is good enough to absorb them, and we're used to it.
So it depends on how vaccinated you are and what viruses you've been exposed to in the past at maybe smaller doses.
Mhm.
And there's other viruses that only affect certain types of organisms for sometimes reasons we don't fully understand. So there's just some viruses that only infect a bird, for example, and maybe it can evolve rapidly to also have an impact on people, but it depends on our unique biochemistry and like where it's able to bypass our immune system or not.
I see. Wow, that's amazing. So you also mentioned about COVID-19. I know it's not so hot topic anymore, but I would still, because
Probably
still
should
people
be.
get infected of it.
Yeah,
So
I had it recently
yeah.
and don't
Well,
recommend.
no, I'm glad you're good. So my question is, when the COVID-19 came in 2020, whoever gets infected of it, it was so bad and people lost their lives to it. And of course, our scientists did their job very well. They came up with a vaccination. We all get vaccinated and now it's got better. Even now people get infected as you did. And I know some of the people who didn't took the vaccination and they get COVID now, but it's not as bad as it was before. They
Mm.
don't, so go to hospitalized or be so much in care or things like that. So what happened when the COVID-19 came? How that was just so powerful, but it's not anymore that people will get infected. It doesn't that bad anymore. How was the journey of it?
So there's a couple things at play, which is number one, a lot of people did get vaccinated, as you said.
Mhm.
And number two is that just several other variants have come out of COVID-19 that have different effects, maybe to different varying extents on some people more than others.
Okay.
And I think also there is an element of people who have gotten it or even gotten it more than once. We think the research seems like there's still a lot of long term effects that could be coming from this that we don't fully understand yet. So it's like still not good to get COVID, and it's still not good for your immune system to get it over and over again.
Yes.
But it can help in the broader community level amount of transmission because if you are getting it and maybe you don't have as much virus built up inside of you that you're coughing up on more people.
I see.
That is like, that type of variant would be less harmful for spreading than another.